Ich habe ja vor ein paar Tagen das erste Mal von McDickey erfahren, oder wie der, glaube ich, hieß, ne? So war das der Entwickler und seinen weirden Spielen. Und scheinbar der Tatsache, dass dieses Wrestling Empire wohl gut sein soll. Ich weiß nicht, so die Faszination oder die Qualität davon, die war jetzt nicht, habe ich jetzt in dem anderen Video nicht so rausgelesen, aber es gab noch den Polygon-Beitrag und der wurde ebenfalls dann gewünscht, beziehungsweise dafür gezahlt. Und dann dachte ich mir, ja, dann lass uns das mal kurz geben. Und vielleicht, also ich meine, ich habe es ja auch in meine Wunschliste gepackt. So ist ja, ich war ja zumindest so weit, okay, dann schauen wir das mal in die keine Ahnung, wo es jetzt nach Grad sortiert ist. Irgendwo in der Wunschliste ist drin, fucking whatever, 20 Euro kostet das Ding, glaube ich, oder so. Und vielleicht kriegt's mich ja davon überzeugt, das Ding dann irgendwie sogar zu holen, mal auszuprobieren.
This is Wrestling Empire. Every space in its.
Weiß nicht, ist dem gerade der Sack geplatzt? Ist dem einfach gerade, ne, Pee stored in the balls und dabei ein bisschen zu viel? Ich finde es einfach sehr geil, wie er hier so, okay, alles klar, das habe ich schon mal gesehen, Anfängerfehler.
Every space in its strange little world is liminal. Bare rooms and surreal streets full of idly shuffling, hostile men, watched by a dreamily drifting
Buff Jacob Geller isn't real, he can't hurt you. Buff Jacob Geller.
And grunts of exertion. Pop the Twin Peaks soundtrack beneath any given clip of Wrestling Empire, and it'll just work. It is, by a wide margin, the weirdest wrestling game ever made. But when it comes to faithfully modeling the reality of pro wrestling, it's also the most accurate. Shockingly, hilariously, tragically accurate. Let me tell you why.
Danke,
Every other wrestling game focuses on the upper crust of the wrestling world. You're either stepping into the boots of your wrestling heroes or playing through a rags to riches pro wrestling self-insert fanfic. But the truth is, for every John Cena, there are hundreds or thousands of bruised dreamers, wrestling in Elks Lodges and middle school cafeterias for a handful of small bills, holding out for a day in the spotlight they may never get, or will never get again.
I don't do any tricks, but I just jump. I stay fit, I watch what I eat.
You know, I'm only 50 now and the phone could ring at any time, you know.
And that is the world of Wrestling Empire. It's the dwarf fortress of fake combat sports. It's a one-man project with a shockingly complex combat system and a systemic free roam sandbox mode. You can create a character or pick an existing wrestler from a massive roster spanning multiple promotions. Once you choose, it's up to you to make it to your matches on time, keep yourself fed, manage your relationships, and stay in shape. It's an unforgiving simulation, and while success is possible, Wrestling Empire is most often a pro wrestling tragedy generator. But to understand it, you've got to most often...
Same. Oh, wie sich Leben teilweise anfühlt.
Pro wrestling tragedy.
Oh, wenn alles auf einmal hittet.
But to understand it, you've got to live it. We'll do that through Buddy Buchanan, our unwitting guide to Wrestling Empire. Buddy Buchanan is in his mid-40s and still at it. He's got a decent bod and a disastrous haircut. When we join him, he's mid-contract with a major promotion, which is something.
Die Frisur erinnert mich so ein bisschen an den Antagonisten aus Dexter's Laboratory. Der hatte auch so einen Schädel.
But the enhancement talent clause is the mark of a man who's decided to swallow his pride for a steady paycheck. Enhancement talent is polite wrestler talk for jobber, which is impolite wrestler talk for a person who loses for a living. Their matches are usually short exhibitions staged to establish how cool and strong someone else is.
Look at the size and power of the Ultimate Warrior and the agility. Oh, one arm.
It's not glamorous, but for a middle-aged Hammond Egger, it's not a bad lifestyle. So together with Buddy, we step out onto the surreal streets of Wrestling Empire. Our first few months with Buddy are uneventful. He walks around, eats floor hot dogs, and goes to his matches. Most of them end in draws or defeats. Sometimes things get bloody, but there's always enough money in the bank for a beer after work and a cleanish hotel room. But one fateful autumn night, Buddy actually gets a win.
2, 3.
Perhaps just for that moment, Buddy allows himself to imagine a better future, a winning streak, a title shot, maybe even one last run at the top of the card. But that distant glimmer turns out to be the headlights of an oncoming train, and it's hauling 200 tons of shit. Before slinking out of the ring, Buddy's embittered opponent hits him in the dick and balls so hard that he has to lay down. Buddy stumbles back to his hotel room to sleep it off, and wakes up the next morning feeling reasonably okay.
Warum ist Batman in deinem Bett auf einmal?
Tonight he's wrestling a match for a charity show.
Und springt direkt das Bett
It might
kaputt.
feel good to do something nice for someone else. But on his way to the ring, he's attacked by Whack Oz. Maybe he saw the nut punch incident and sensed weakness, or maybe he just doesn't like Buddy's face. Real quick, I think it's important to point out that this is one thing that Wrestling Empire gets deliberately wrong about wrestling. Backstage attacks and out-of-ring violence happen a lot in wrestling programming, but very, very rarely in wrestling reality. In fact, having a reputation for deliberately or negligently injuring other wrestlers can be a career ender. Either way, by the time he makes it to the ring for his match, Buddy's already gassed. Almost right away, Buddy gets dumped out of the ring and onto the floor. It's a move that he's taken hundreds of times before, but this time it feels different. Try as he might, he can't get back into the ring, and the match ends via countout. Buddy can't seem to make it to the curtain on his feet, so he crawls. On the other side of the curtain, he's informed that he's suffered a severe neck injury and he'll be out for up to 10 weeks. Before we can finish calculating the sum of missed paychecks, Buddy is summoned to the GM's office, who informs us that the promotion is understaffed and they need him on commentary. Now, if you're saying,
What?
A severely injured man being asked to return to work, that doesn't seem realistic, you're wrong.
Angespannte, tickende
This is
Musik.
the first place the bizarre reality of Buddy's world overlaps with real-life wrestling. This sort of thing happens. Worse things happen. A lot of people know that in 1998, The Undertaker threw Mankind off Hell in a Cell and he plummeted 22 feet through an announcer's table.
Sure, I knew that.
People know that he got back up and climbed the cage again. Then he got dropped through the roof in a botched chokeslam. Then, with a concussion, internal bleeding, several missing teeth, and a dislocated jaw, he stood up and continued the match. Also, Taker had a fractured ankle the whole time. When Kerry Von Erich lost his foot after a motorcycle accident, he continued wrestling with a prosthetic hidden in his boot. His disability stayed a secret until after his death. In the first moments of an ROH bout with Takeshi Morishima, Bryan Danielson suffered a broken
Ich habe das Gefühl, ich habe gerade 3 verschiedene Ideen für Super iPad Wolf Videos bekommen.
orbital and detached retina, and continued to deliver a barn burner of a match. In all of these cases, we can celebrate the grit and dedication of the performers, but if we zoom out a bit, we can see that these acts of valor and self-neglect happen in an environment that encourages them or makes them necessary. Vince McMahon's rebranding of wrestling as sports entertainment was meant to put the product alongside Hollywood and Major League Sports in the eyes of viewers. But you'd be hard-pressed to find an athlete or entertainer who would endure the punishment that pro wrestlers are subjected to. If Tom Brady's eyeball is popping out of its socket, he's not going to finish the game. If Jason Statham is bleeding from all of his holes, he's going to get a ride to the hospital. But unlike actors and NFL players, wrestlers don't have unions, and we'll talk about unions again, to back them up. And tomorrow's payday is never guaranteed. So out of either pride or pragmatism in the face of an unforgiving economic reality, we decide to take the extra cash, and Buddy drags his injured ass out to the commentary booth. After the match, we start.
Ich liebe, wie sich die ganzen Figuren bewegen. So in alternating Reihen. Eine geht hoch, eine geht runter. Alle stehen einfach nur da als Cutout
A
hervorragend.
long trek to the hospital, and it seems like crawling is the only option. Buddy inches along, and we pray that he makes it before he passes out on the floor. Eventually, a kind passerby offers to take him the rest of the way. In the hospital, Buddy begins his long recovery. Each day, we watch his bank account shrink. One morning, he picks up the dirt sheets and reads that his promotion's ratings have jumped dramatically since Buddy Buchanan's disappearance. So that feels great. The next day, the doctor informs us that Buddy can accelerate his recovery with an expensive surgery. Weighing the risks and cost of surgery against lost wages, we decide to go for it. And once again, Wrestling Empire proves itself to be the
Ich würde immer Ärzten vertrauen, die so aussehen. Und vor allem auch Leuten, die wie Delirium hier ein Abo dalassen. Vielen Dank dafür.
most accurate wrestling sim in the world. Even the top tier of pro wrestlers at WWE and AEW are classified as independent contractors, even if they're forbidden from working elsewhere. Most of them have to buy their own health insurance and cover their own medical costs. For a handful of top earners, it's fine. But for everyone else, it's fucking bullshit. In the mid-1980s, Jesse the Body Ventura stepped into an elevator with NFLPA Executive Director Gene Upshaw.
I remember Big Gene looked at me and all he said to me was, "You boys need to unionize." And I said, "I know, Gene."
He started back
Hell yeah, comrade!
stage conversations about unionization and its possible benefits, like better pay and healthcare. But momentum was squashed when Hulk Hogan reportedly snitched to Vince McMahon. It's an important moment in wrestling history, and Wrestling Empire is
Grund Nummer 5068, warum Hulk Hogan ein verfickter Bastard ist.
the only game that addresses it. It is brutal. Even more so for obscure upstarts and rundown vets. If they get hurt, they can't work, and they don't get paid. So they work hurt or they go into medical debt, or both. Luckily, we have enough cash in the bank to pay for the surgery, and in a few weeks, Buddy's back on his feet. But on the way out of the hospital, another doctor approaches and makes a proposition.
Hell yeah, baby.
Say no to drugs, but here's the thing. We need it. Wrestling is a body business. A wrestler needs strength, agility, and endurance to do what they do in the ring. They need the stamina to do it up to 200 nights a year. On top of maintaining that incredible athletic function, wrestlers also have to consider form. You don't need to be 0% body fat and jacked as hell to be an incredible wrestler, and there's plenty of proof out there. But when mainstream audiences have been conditioned to conflate aesthetics with ability, you have proof out there.
Was?
But when mainstream audiences have as hell to be an incredible wrestler, and there's plenty of proof out there. But when mainstream audiences have been conditioned to conflate aesthetics with ability, and the bosses who hand out opportunities have demonstrated a strong preference for the improbably swole, the muscles aren't a matter of vanity. They're a life preserver. For a wrestler saddled with these unrealistic standards, steroids can be just what the doctor, or guy who knows a doctor, ordered. Steroids can help amass and maintain the bulky, shredded physiques we've come to expect from wrestlers. In addition to those visible enhancements, they can also reduce muscle and joint pain, and even accelerate recovery times. These benefits have caused many, many road-worn wrestlers to hit the gas. But that help can come with a lot of hurt. There are the medical risks, and the risks of getting caught. Despite pro wrestling being a staged competition, performance-enhancing drugs are still stigmatized. After a major steroid scandal in the early 90s and a string of untimely wrestler deaths in the early thousands,
Ich muss echte Wrestler gucken. Hast du den nicht gesehen? Oder meintest du nochmal gucken? The Wrestler ist einfach nur Depressing? Ja. Ja. Average Aronofsky-Erfahrung. So. Oh, ein neuer Darren Aronofsky-Film ist raus. Ich frage mich, ob er super fucking depressiv ist.
The WWE introduced a random testing policy. Violations can result in suspensions and firing. It's an arrangement that protects the company and puts more pressure on the individual wrestlers, who were
Aber The Wrestler ist aber auch ein extrem geiler Film, ja, muss ich auch sagen.
still expected to work the same grueling schedules under the same conditions.
If you can't cut it, get out. You know, if for some reason you have to rely on drugs, illegal drug usage to make it, boy, you're going to self-destruct.
Trapped between impossible expectations and career-threatening punishment, it seems like there are no right moves. Stay clean and live every day in pain. Take your time on the mend and watch the spotlight move on to the next guy. Or roll the dice and go big. If you get busted, the company will be fine. But you won't. Buddy decides to accept the risks and the stigma and gets geared to the gills. Maybe, just
Vince war so kurz davor, in den Knast zu gehen. If only. Vince McCunt, man.
maybe it'll help us turn things around. The next morning, he's summoned to the boss's office, who tells Buddy that it's time for a new look, and he doesn't have a choice in the matter. Buddy leaves the office with a new set of edgier duds, not quite feeling himself, but willing to make it work. It's another absurd turn of events that's pulled from wrestling reality. At promotions with more hands-on leadership, a wrestler can find their identity erased and rewritten at the drop of a hat. Evil dentist Dr. Isaac Yankem can become the hell-born demon Kane. Even wrestling royalty like Dustin Runnels can be transformed into the pansexual enigma, Goldust. Sometimes these changes can be an attempt to freshen an image and reinvigorate the audience. Other times they're purely punitive. Compared to those pivots, a fresh pair of leather pants seems downright.
Ist Wrestling einfach Drag für Heteromänner?
Mild. We shuffle out of the office and to the vending machine, hoping to fuel up for our match. But once again, Buddy Buchanan is brutally blindsided, and snack time is ruined. In a daze, he stumbles
I hate when
towards
snack
the
time is ruined.
About halfway there, Buddy Buchanan pisses his pants.
Also ich weiß nicht, ob ich das als pissing his pants bezeichnen würde. Das ist schon major malfunction. Also keiner impressive, muss ich ganz ehrlich sagen. Wenn das so aus dir rausburstet.
And now at this point, I gotta say, I think maybe the game's gone a bit too far. There is no way. Well.
So anyway, goddamn Yoke picks me up with one arm and slams the shit out of me. Literally, he slammed the shit out of me. I shit my pants. I'm lucky I wore black trunks. And it wasn't like a gigantic shit, but I mean, you know, I sprayed.
Real-life pro wrestlers are an itinerant warrior class who travel from town to town, eating fast casual food, slamming protein and pre-workouts, and then jumping up and down on top of each other. So it's no wonder most of them have at least one story about pissing or shitting themselves in the ring. Once again, Wrestling Empire captures a reality stranger than fiction. Another wrestler, the guy who just jumped us at the vending machine, seems to take pity and tells us to take care of our mental health. Or maybe he's just making fun of us. In his piss-soaked leather pants, Buddy trudges to the ring to lose another one, then trudges back out to take a ref shift because we need the fucking money. After one of the worst days of his life, Buddy is simply too tired to make it back to the hotel, so he lays down on the floor. He wakes up to his coworker taunting him about the piss pants thing, and fair enough, I guess. Buddy hasn't showered yet, so I imagine there's a bit of a smell. Buddy Buchanan goes back to sleep.
Average life of a Twitch streamer.
Snow falls on Empire Avenue, but Buddy is not feeling in the holiday spirit. He's booked in a Christmas gimmick match against Hong Xin, a masked martial artist. Buddy shuffles to the ring, which is overflowing with presents. You might think that these shenanigans are beneath a seasoned grappler and an expert martial artist, but you would be wrong. This is another thing that Wrestling Empire understands about wrestling. Wrestling is not a genre of entertainment, it's a medium. The squared circle can be home to underdog sports stories, vicious blood feuds, technical showcases, or pure clown shit. Whichever story a performer is dropped into, the most important thing is that they commit fully. So Buddy, aching, tired, jacked up on horse testosterone and over the hill, picks up an elegantly wrapped Christmas present and smashes it into the forehead of his opponent. The match gets surprisingly violent, spilling out of the ring and onto the floor, but it ends in an anticlimactic tap out. But as Buddy tries to make it through the curtain, it becomes clear that something is wrong. After every few steps, he collapses to the ground. The hospital is a 50-meter crawl, and Buddy has no choice but to drag himself towards the medical intervention he so badly needs. Halfway through the gymnasium, someone finally offers him a hand, but it's too late.
Hell yeah, brother.
On Christmas Eve,
nicht
Buddy
mal ein Jahr
dies on the
geschafft.
floor, 20 meters from the hospital. He leaves behind $11,000 in cash and a 38% win rate. This is the same place most of my Wrestling Empire campaigns have ended. An anticlimactic, undignified death outside the ring. When it happens in the game to one of our repulsive little guys, it's shocking and darkly funny. But unfortunately, this is one of the saddest things that this wrestling fever dream gets right about wrestling reality. There is no retirement plan for pro wrestlers. It's get rich or die trying.
Wrestling it has a tremendous entrance plan. You come in as, boy, here you are, you rock and roll and everything is wonderful. It's got no exit plan. What would you have me do at 49 when my pension plan I can't take out till I'm 65? I'm not gonna make 65. Let's just face facts, guys.
Oof. Oof.
When Dave Shoemaker wrote his history of American pro wrestling, just about every major character had an unplanned exit. And after living through the surreal simulations of Wrestling Empire, the reasons why are clear. Part of being a wrestling fan is knowing this. You want your favorite to win and get big moments in the spotlight, but you also want to see them live and retire in health, maybe even die at a reasonable age. And the wrestlers know it too. They live it, and they keep going.
And you know, that's all the stuff that's just bad about wrestling. You know, the injuries and the toll it takes on your body and the toll it takes on your family. We were talking about all the different options and stuff that I have. You know, I could go back to school, I could go work in the mill. But right before my dad got up to make me a tuna sandwich, he turns to me and he says, you know, but this is the life you always wanted.
Also Klaviertöne, so.
Silly, stupid, janky, and unsettling as it is, Wrestling Empire still serves as a scathing indictment of an entertainment industry badly in need of a labor revolution. So wrestlers can chase their dreams safely, and so that we can cheer them on without fear. So that's Wrestling Empire. It's tragicomic, ugly, frustrating, and weird. But not as weird as the real thing.
Pulsierende Synth-Musik. Das war ein fantastisches Video, muss ich sagen. Also das ging ja tatsächlich mehr noch um die eigentliche Wrestling-Industrie als das Spiel selber, aber war dadurch auch ein ziemlich guter Aufbau. Das ist schon gute Musik. Aber es kommt nicht ganz an den fantastischen Soundtrack vom VHS Nintendo 64 Video von gestern. Das war absolut fucking legendär.